I think one of the hardest parts about wanting to start a YouTube channel is feeling like you have nothing to offer. And I've always felt that way because I'm kind of like a jack of all trades and a master at none. And so it was pretty difficult for me to do. But I have thought of something that I feel like I want to share with the world. I moved out at 18, right when college kind of started. And I'm 20 now, and I'm studying abroad for this fall semester. That ends in December, and then after that, I will be traveling for the next 4 to 5 months before heading back home to the US. Now, how did I get here? Well, a lot of people are living in toxic households, and I was one of them. There was abuse growing up, and eventually it came to a point in senior year that there was a lot of resentment and pain that I was feeling, a lot of mental health issues, anger, and I couldn't take it anymore. And so I decided to leave. I chose university specifically that would give me a full ride, and I applied for a credit card at 18 so I could get a credit score by the time I needed to rent an apartment. And so when the school year started for the freshman year of university, I knew I wasn't receiving any FAFSA, so I did my research and I found out I could apply for a dependency override, which requires testimonies and documents that signify the abuse growing up or any unusual circumstance you have with your parents. Now, every school is different, so if you're thinking about doing this, please look into your own school. But moving forward, I was able to get that completed and I was able to qualify for Pell Grants. Now, I was also working two part time jobs on top of school during that time. So I saved up my money from that part time job. And so when I moved out, it was January, which means I only spent one semester in person in college. And then when January hit, I left without telling my family and I moved away. I rented my own apartment because I was able to rack up a little bit of time on my credit score. I did have to pay an extra higher fee because I was a new individual with credit and all of that stuff. And, you know, I think the one thing that deterred a lot of people from moving out, including myself at the beginning, was how are you going to support yourself financially? And how are you going to manage school, work, and taking care of yourself entirely, being responsible for bills, cars, everything of that sort. Now, I get it because I was in the boat. I was in that boat. It was really hard for me to adjust the beginning, but I think what a lot of people forget about is that, you know, pain comes with, you know, pros. There are cons, and we tend to only look at the cons, but there are a lot of pros. But to start off, let's talk about the cons. When I first moved in, I was like, okay, I have to learn how to be an adult. And I knew independence. I wasn't shy about independence. I knew how to be independent, but being an adult is a completely different thing because now there are all sorts of insurances for all sorts of things, not just your car. You gotta have renter's insurance and all sorts of stuff. Figuring out your own health care, finding a job. Finding a job is a big one. Um, when I first moved out, I did 1 month of no working, but I was still, in the job search, but I came there with no job. And then I got hired at Starbucks in February, and I didn't want to work at Starbucks. That wasn't my first choice. I really wanted to work at a hospital, but the hospitals around me were rejecting me until like 2 months into Starbucks, I got a reply back and I was able to get a job at a hospital, which eventually I quit Starbucks for. Now, working at the hospital, it was great pay, great benefits, great location for me, but it still kind of wasn't enough to support myself fully. I mean, the economy is pretty bad, so um, on top of like buying stuff for school and supporting myself and the high rates for insurance and the price of the car and all of these things, I had to start working overtime. And so I was working about 50 to 60 hours a week on top of schoolwork. And I always tried to give myself minimum credits per semester. So 12 credits to 14 credits, so it could be manageable. Um, but it all boiled down to time management. And with time management, I was able to figure out when were the best times for me to do certain uh, tasks, when is the best time I could meal prep, what, just simply just making the best use of my time. And so here comes the pros. I did, in fact, not lose a social life. I I had a social life. I was going out on the weekends, the days that I had off. I try my best to either rest or do something that I had been wanting to do. And I was able to give time to my relationship and to myself. Now, it was very difficult in the beginning because it's things are constantly changing. And for me, because I am a student, I have to take on different opportunities, even though I'm already filled with so much stuff to do. And so that meant doing extracurricular stuff like I'm in a computer science major, so I would do things like CodePath or externships, internships, mini internships. So we have to take all of that into account. But in reality, my social life didn't die. It just was a matter of managing my time properly. So the first thing that is a pro about moving out and something that really positively impacted me was freedom. I know we look at freedom so vaguely and so broad, and it's just, oh, the word freedom, freedom, freedom. But for me, freedom is worth more than anything that money could buy me. When I moved out, the first thing that I would really do almost every day or just almost every week, I walk out and walk to the stores around me and to the supermarket, and that just feeling of I'm in control of my life, that impacted me the most. It made me realize that I didn't hate living, I just wasn't living. And because of that, it really changed my perspective on things. I used to be a very, um, how do I say this, unmotivated person, not in the sense that I was lazy, but I just wasn't confident that I was capable of doing anything or amounting anything in my life. I had a defeating personality and just thought wasn't capable until I moved out and I showed myself that I could do anything I wanted. I chased dreams that I didn't know I could chase. Now, on top of that, I learned a new sense of independence. I was able to have more work experience and see what it's really like working a 9 to 5. I I learned how to be an adult. So adulting is struggling. It could be a con, it could be a pro, wherever you see it as, but it is both for me. I learned how to be an adult, but maybe I grew up a little bit too fast, right? But I was happy, but I I wasn't entirely content. So there's happiness and there's content. I was happy, but I wasn't content. I think I started getting jealous 6 to 8 months into me moving out. I was looking at my friends' stories on Instagram and stuff like that, and I was jealous. I wanted to be a student, and I felt like I was missing out on an experience that I would only get once in a lifetime because really that it's the only time you would get some type of experience like that. And so I saw out my options and I decided it would be best if I studied abroad because I've always wanted to go to Japan and I've always wanted to study abroad, and so this was the perfect time to do it. Now, I made things even a little bit worse, but I knew it was a short-term plan. I had gotten a second job at Target, and at this point, I was working 70 to 80 hours a week. And I was doing this for 6 to 8 months before going to Japan, which I went to Japan this past August. So I have been working from maybe March, February, March, around that time. And even at one point, the month of May, I was working 3 jobs all at once, and that was almost 100 hours a week. Now, don't do this because unless you're doing it for short term and you know that you're not going to be burning yourself out, don't do it because I was having breakdowns every week or so. But what I'm trying to say, and the theme of all of this is that you can do anything you want with the willpower and the motivation that you need to make your life better. You can do anything you absolutely want. No matter how hard it looks, you're capable of doing it. I mean, the world is your oyster type of thing, you know? And I would always think that was cringy to say, cringy to think about, because there are people who are more privileged than the other. But I think putting myself in that time period and like seeing myself, how I really started from rock bottom at that point when I moved out, I I don't see an excuse for anyone else. I guess you can say. I try to motivate people and like those around me who are in similar situations. I just let them know you could do it. I did it and I was at rock bottom and I didn't think I would be able to do it, but I did it. And that's because once you're in that situation where you need yourself the most, you will show up for yourself. Sorry. You will show up for yourself, and that's bound to happen because you wouldn't let yourself fail. And you need to trust yourself more that you do that for yourself. I've been saying yourself a lot. But that's essentially what I'm saying. You should move out. If it's really getting to a point where it's unbearable, I'm certain that you will make that change for yourself for the better and you wouldn't let yourself down. I am more than grateful to be where I am right now. I wouldn't change anything for the world. I don't regret moving out ever despite all the times I felt so trapped and stuck and not knowing what to do. I'm here now and I'm and with the most confidence I've ever had in my life, the most willpower I've ever had, and I've never believed I was so capable up until this point. Seeing where I am now, where I started, and the person I used to be, the person I used to think I was, all of that has shifted because I took that one step to stand up for myself. And I think once you do that, everything will change for you as well. It'll be like a domino effect. You will start making choices that are right for you. Because when I wasn't happy at home, I left that place. I gave myself a chance to grow and be myself. When I wasn't entirely happy with living alone and not being a university student, I worked hard to save enough money up to study abroad and give myself more chances to travel even after. It's all a matter of taking your life into your own hands and giving yourself that control. And if this video is the push that you need to do that, just rewatch it over and over again. I'm just a regular person and I don't feel special. And I think to hear that from someone, if I were younger and where I used to be and I saw someone post this video, I would think maybe it is possible. And I hope you guys feel the same as well. Now, like I said, I will be traveling, so there will be a lot of videos about that. I'm going to try to put a compilation of all the shots I've been taking, but it's a little bit hard because it's very embarrassing to take my camera around and take some videos. But I will dive into deeper topics about how I moved out, including the financial stuff. So subscribe and stay tuned for the next video.